These super cute Easter bunny bags are so easy to make because the ears don't require any increases or decreases. You're just gonna knit a square. Hey there Luma, it's Denise from lumahad.com. Super excited to get you started on this project. You're gonna need a 24 peg loom, 38 yards of worsted weight yarn, your loom hook, yarn needle, scissors, and optional 3 10mm safety eyes. And without further ado, let's begin with a drawstring cast-on of 24 pegs. We're going to be knitting with 2 strands of yarn as one, and I do have a video about how to do this. I'll put a link in the description. And I'll be securing my yarn to the anchor peg with a simple knot. You can use a slip knot if you're more comfortable. And then take your working yarn and put it between the first and last peg. And you're going to go behind that first peg and in front of the next. So we're going to be doing a sort of zigzag type of cast on. Behind one, in front of the next peg, and behind the next peg, in front of the next peg. So in and out, in and out, in and out. Continue to do this to all of your 24 pegs. When you get back to the first peg, you're not going to go in front of that peg. Instead, you're going to take your working yarn behind that first peg and in front of peg 2. And you'll notice that in some pegs you have 2 sets and in some you only have 1. So on peg 2, you're going to take the 2 bottom loops over the top and knit off. Your peg 3 does not have 2 sets. Peg 4, you do. So take the bottom 2 over the top 2 and knit off. And you're going to continue to do that. Anywhere there are 2 sets of working yarn, you're going to knit off. Where there isn't any, then you're just going to lay the yarn over that peg. And you're going to continue to do this. This is your drawstring cast on. And what it does is that it creates a nice flatter bottom than to do, for instance, a E-wrap or a crochet cast on. This just makes for a flatter bottom because we're knitting from the bottom up. Once you're done with your drawstring cast on, you've knit off all of the pegs that had 2 sets of loops, a set on the bottom and a set on the top. You're done with your cast on and then you're ready for row 1. So only on peg 1 on row 1, you'll notice there is no loop. So you're going to take your working yarn and just lay it over peg 1 only on row 1. Go to peg 2 and half wrap and knit off. We're using the U-wrap version of the knit stitch for this row. We're going to use the E-wrap later on, but for this row, we're going to use the U-wrap version of the knit stitch. This means you half wrap your peg and then take the bottom loops and knit them over the top. So you're going to do that for all, in this first row, you're only knitting 23 of the pegs because peg 1 does not have 2 loops. Okay, once you're done with those 23 pegs, only on row 1 because you skipped peg 1 because it did not have a loop, you're then done with row 1 and now you're ready for row 2. On row 2, you're going to E-wrap all of your pegs, all 24 of them. Peg 1 now has a loop. So from the back, you're going to wrap the peg completely, and you can do a few of these, one of these, only all of them. You wrap and then you take the bottom set of loops over the top and you knit off. Now you see here that I only did 3. I'm just giving you an option. Again, you can knit them one at a time or all of them and then come back and knit off. Now make sure to take the knot off that anchor peg. You don't need it anymore. Your yarn is now secure. So just take that working yarn and put it inside of the knitting loom and then continue to work on making sure that you E-wrap all of your pegs. So keep wrapping and knitting off. While you guys continue doing that, let me take the time to say thank you to Carol Maple from PromiseLearningATL.com, Penny Pitcher, Barbara Ledger, Bob Urquhart, Joanne Claybore, and Linda Rapp for covering the cost of closed captioning this video. Thank you guys. Then for row 3, you're going to U-wrap knit your 24 pegs, and that's going to be followed with rows 4 through 17, where you're going to repeat rows 2 and 3 7 more times. For those of you that get a little confused with this, let me show you what that looks like. 4, 5, 4, you E-wrap 24, 5, you knit 24. Then you do the same for 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, all the way to 17. And then we're ready to cast off 12 of the 24 pegs. So we're going to be doing the basic bind off, and I've marked peg 1 here for you guys, as well as when the next 12 begin, which is right here, just to make it easier for you guys to see where I start and end, right? So I can count off 12 starting with this peg 1 right here. So the basic bind off is done over 2 pegs. The first 2, you're going to wrap them, because we're going to E-wrap both of them. Then you're going to knit off pegs 1 and 2. And then you're going to take the loop off of the second peg and bring that loop over to the first peg. So now you have 2 sets of loops on peg 1. You're going to tighten it so that you can knit it off. And then you're going to take the loop that's on peg 1 over to peg 2, which is empty. And now peg 2 has a loop, but peg 1, you've done your bind off. So that one is now empty, and that's your first cast off. Now we're going to go to peg 2, and again, we're going to work over 2. Either direction is fine, okay? I'm going in that other direction. Now I'm going to do something you don't need to do, and that is that I'm going to remove some of the loops because it will give me a nice tight bind off like this, right? When all of the stitches are on, the first ones come out really loose like this. I didn't do this. I didn't take off a few of the loops. The ones next to the ones I'm going to remove, I didn't remove some of them on that orange one, and that's why you see that it's loose. So I'm going to use this cable holder to hold on to, I'm going to do 4. You can do 3, you can do 5, or none at all. If you don't have a cable holder, or you're uncomfortable with this, then don't do it. I'm going to remove them only because that gives me a nice, neat bind off. And I know this looks like I am torturing you watching me do this. It's usually really easy. If I'm not in front of a camera, this is a smooth process, but sometimes I like you guys to see when I struggle so that you are comfortable with struggling through some of your projects. So again, I'm going to remove these 4 loops. They are next to the ones that I'm going to bind off, only to make it neater. And by the way, if you want some of these cable holders, they come in a group with different sizes, and you can find them at lumahead.store, where you can also find the pattern for this project. All right, so we removed 1, and now we're going to go to the next 2, but this time I'm only going to knit off the second peg. Not the first, only the second. I knit it off, then I take the loop and I bring it over to the first peg. I'm going to then knit off that peg and take the loop off of that first one over to the peg that's empty next to it in the direction that I'm going, right? Now pegs 1 and 2 I've cast off, so the next 2 are pegs 3 and 4. So I wrap peg 4, knit it off, take it off the peg, and bring it over to the first one, which is now peg 3. And I tighten my stitch, and then I knit off that peg, and I take the loop off peg 3 and I move it to peg 4, and now I have a new peg 1 and 2. Remember that this process is done over 2 pegs. Up to now I've cast off 3 of my 12, so I'm going to continue, and just like before, I wrap the second, take the loop off, bring it to the first peg, knit off, and then take that loop off that first peg over to the next one, and now I've cast that one off. So remember, we're doing 12 of them. Now I want to tell you, don't stress if you did 11 or you did 13 or whatever. It's really not that deep, you know. You want to aim for 12. So you continue, again, you're doing these 2 at a time, right, until you get to that very last one. And like I said, I did mark mine off, so I wouldn't have to keep counting and counting. I counted it at the beginning and laid down my stitch markers, and that way I'm not thinking about that. Got enough going on. And now I'm ready to place those 4 loops that I had taken off. I'm putting them back on. Now I do, again, struggle to put these on because I'm trying to film it while I do it. But basically, the last one that you put on, you took off, is the first one that you put back on. And I go off camera a little. It's super easy. Just use your hook or your fingers to take the loops off the cable holder and place them back onto the loom. Again, this is optional, so here's the last one that I put in. But real quickly, I just want you guys to take note of the fact that I never cut the yarn. I cast off those 12 pegs, but I never cut the yarn. I'm still going to be using that in order to knit the others. Now, you see how neat that cast off looks? If I hadn't done that, the first ones would have been wider. Looser. All right, so now let's go ahead and knit those 12 stitches. That's the top part. We're going to now be knitting the ears, and we're going to start with row 18, where we're going to e-wrap 12 pegs. So we are going to continue that same row, and we're going to go ahead and knit those first 3 to I wrapped 3 of them, but remember, you can wrap the whole row, or you can wrap them one at a time and then knit the bottom over the top. And here you see where my yarn kind of wraps. People get frustrated with this. I don't really worry about it. I just turn it a little bit and then just go ahead and finish that row. 12 pegs of e-wrap. Now I'm going to turn around on row 19 and I'm going to U-wrap. Remember, we're knitting flat, so we're going back and forth, not in the round like we were doing before. So again, I half wrap and knit off. I'm going to finish my row. I need to knit 12 of them. Once you're finished with this row of U-wrap knit stitch, you're then ready for rows 20 through 31, and what you're going to do now is that you're going to repeat rows 18 and 19 6 more times. And you guys already know how to do these repeats, right? It's 2 rows that you're repeating again and again and again 6 more times. Then you're ready to cast off these 12 pegs, and just like we did before, we're just casting off flat. So we're going to knit off the first 2, right? E-wrap knit. Take the loop from the second one, put it on the first one, tighten the stitch, knit off, and then take that loop and move it over. And this time it's 12, so you guys know how to do that, right? The second time you only wrap the second loop, bring it over, start again, wrap the second loop, knit off, bring it over, knit that one, knit off, and move it. You're going to continue until you've done all 12 pegs. Right, here's the last one, just to remind you, it's no different. You're knitting off the second loop, taking that stitch, bringing it over to the one next to it, tighten that loop, knit off, and you're done. Now you can just pull on that loop and release the project from your knitting loom. Now I'm going to cut my yarn and finish pulling it through. Unfortunately, something happened with my camera and it didn't show you. So now you see I just pulled it, and that's all, and cut the yarn. Now I'm going to take those 2 strands, feed them through a yarn needle, and I'm going to weave in the end. So I don't want this just hanging out there, and so you see that right at the edge I weave in that end into the project so that it looks nice and neat, and I don't see it. It's disappeared now. I'm going to put it all the way inside, and then I'll cut that extra piece of yarn right there. Just cut it. All right, and so the top part is done. Now we're going to pull the drawstring caston, those 2 strands. You're going to keep pulling on them because you want to close the bottom. Don't worry if you don't close it like really tight. It's all about what you're going to be putting in the bag. Like if you're just going to put candy eggs, you don't have to close it all the way. If you're going to be putting a whole egg, you don't have to close it all the way. Close it as much as you can, and don't worry about closing it completely, right? The less you close it, the better it actually will sit up. Then take those 2 strands, thread a yarn needle, and then you're going to feed that yarn needle through those cast on loops. This is going to secure this little hole so it doesn't reopen on you, and it's a way to weave in this extra yarn that you have. And then just close it up a little more. I'm gonna go around 2 times, I think 2 or 3 times. Go as many times as you feel comfortable, and again close a little hole as much as you can, and then bring it in really as much as you want, because again it doesn't really need to be closed. Make a knot and then cut off the excess yarn, and there you have it. Now you're ready for the next part. We're ready to shape the ears, and so I'm going to show you this using pink yarn, and I'm going to bring it in from the bottom of the square, the top of the bag, right? That first row that you did of the square portion, when you were knitting flat, that first row, we're going to put the yarn through there. Again, I'm using the pink yarn, just so you see what I'm doing. Leave some of it on this end because you're going to need to pull that, and then you're going to come back and do a second row, but this time you're only going to go midway. You're not going to do the whole row. You're going to stop at the middle, and then we're going to start taking that strand of yarn upward. So we're using a single strand of yarn. I'm doing it in pink just so you could see, but I'm going to take it back out and then put it in white so it's not, you can't see it. All right, so I'm up at the top in the middle, and now I turn around and I'm going to come down. So I'm aiming for the top of that row, that straight row. I'm in the middle, and now I'm going to go outward to where I started. Okay, and so it looks like an upside down T, and I have 2 strands of yarn, and I'm pulling on them, and this now creates that shape. You see how it pulls on the top part of the square and turns it into 2 ears. Hopefully you guys can see that and it makes sense to you. Okay, so that's how you're going to shape the ears. Sometimes it takes a little work, a little playing with it, a little stretching and pulling until it looks exactly the way you want it. So I did it in pink. Now I'm going to take it back out and put it in white, and you won't see it. So I took the pink out, I put the white yarn, and now I've shaped them the way I want them, and I'm going to go ahead and weave them in to secure this so that it doesn't move. So I'm going to take a yarn needle and weave in each one at a time. While I do that and you watch me, let me just remind you guys that you can buy the written pattern for this project and many more projects at lumahat.store. Be sure to sign up for the newsletter because there's always coupons. Occasionally there are free patterns there, lots of goodies. So sign up at lumahat.store. And as we finish, I want to thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Remember to subscribe if you haven't, comment, like. All right, now let's put the little eyes in. I'm using safety eyes. If you guys don't like safety eyes or you just don't have any, you can use embroidery to put in the little face, but I find that this is the easiest and the cutest way. So I've put in my 3 safety eyes. I use one of them as a little nose, and you can add more detail to this. I kind of like the way it looks with just the 3 little eyes. I just find it much cuter. So I put in the I put them in where I want them. I situate them, and once I have them exactly where I want, then I place the back on them, and that's it. There you go. Listen, YouTube is going to show you more videos they think you want to watch, and I think they know what they're doing, so watch more videos. All right, till next time. Bye, Luma.